Hello, everybody. My name is Ada Hatcher, and today I'm going to be talking with you about the role of dance in the education of young children, and more specifically, parental perceptions of dance. I think it's really important to begin this discussion by talking about the power of dance and its many benefits. So, it's been shown that dance can help improve physical and emotional health, not just in young children, but in adults as well. Can help develop cognitive awareness, problem-solving skills, and can also be used as a teaching tool in the classroom when using dance to teach other subjects. That's been done quite a bit. Um, there are studies on that, and there's plenty of literature in that way, but these are more in the realm of informational literature and also qualitative research. When it came to researching dance in quantitative studies, there are so few studies that have been done for dance in general, and it became very difficult once I was honing in on my specific topic to find quantitative studies for that. So that provided some real complications for my study. There have been some quantitative studies done that do relate to my topic, however, so I'm going to take a minute to talk about those. There was a organization in Detroit, Michigan that had successful results when they integrated arts in general into Head Start programs in Detroit, Michigan. This was a study that was done in 2018, and this included not just dance, but also music and other art forms as well. And then there was a study in 2015 looking at how physical activity can improve spatial perception and attention for children in early childhood. This was a successful study, and as we know, dance is a very physical activity, so there is a correlation there just in looking at dance. Then there was a comparison of enjoyment levels for young children when they were participating in traditional tag games versus interactive dance games, and that was done in 2014. Um, the study showed that children actually enjoyed interactive dance games over the traditional tag games, which, as we know in our own experience as teachers, that children learn much more easily and readily when there are higher levels of enjoyment. It's also important to define a couple of, mainly the term dance literacy. I'm going to talk about that for a minute. So, dance literacy, which was not defined early enough in my study, so I did not take time to define dance literacy before um, creating questions regarding dance literacies, but I'll talk a little bit about that and the limitations later on. But it's important that we take a minute to define that here before we get into further discussion. So, dance literacy is more than just becoming or being familiar with dance vocabulary and dance terms. Um, you may have heard the words spatial awareness, contraction, mind body connectivity, improvisation, alignment, and gesture. And we actually hear these words a lot in yoga classes, which are really popular these days, and meditation. But these words did come out of the world of dance. Um, these are terms that emerged from the dance community and have since crossed over into other, you know, different areas of body awareness. So, anyway, dance literacy has more to do with the embodiment of what it means to convey and or interpret the world of the symbolic that is communicated through the physical body. So, being able to look at what the body is communicating and have some sort of in ability to confidently discuss what you see the body doing, what it might mean, and also to have an awareness of what your body is communicating, whether it's in a dance class or choreography or just out in when you're being social in the world. Exposure and experience, this relates to what kinds of dance-related experiences a person may have had as a child. And then attitudes towards dance is exactly what it sounds like. What are a person's current attitudes and beliefs towards dance? So this current study, we're looking at the parental attitudes towards dance. My sample was 20 parents from a small alternative school in rural Middle Tennessee, and this was really just a good place to start because of the convenience and the access that I had to the um, the families and of our school community. So my research questions, originally began focusing on parental perceptions of dance as an educational tool, but there was such a lack of research on this topic that it became apparent that I needed to simplify my topic away from dance and education together, which becomes quite complex. So the world of dance is very separate from the world of education, and then there is this crossover. But in order to really focus in on what perceptions are, I felt like I really needed to just focus in on dance in general. And so I changed my research topic as I went along. So, what I wanted to know is if there's a significance in the difference in attitudes towards dance between male and females. I wanted to know if there's a significant relationship between previous exposure to slash experience with dance and dance literacy. I wanted to know if there's a difference between previous exposure to slash experience with dance and attitudes towards dance. And is there a significant relationship between dance literacy and attitudes towards dance? So I went with a convenient sampling, and this made sense because this was a pilot study, and convenient sampling is most useful for a pilot study. And then also my sample was close at hand. I'm on faculty at the school where I did the study, and so I created a paper survey, and this instrument was created and included questions regarding demographics, levels of dance literacy, previous exposure slash experience with dance, and attitudes towards dance. So the results were interesting. I was kind of surprised that there was not a significant difference in attitudes towards dance between male and females. I ran an independent t-test, and again, it was not significant. Generally, we do see a difference in attitudes between male and female, but with this particular population, I did not. It may have to do with the fact that the larger percentage of the population was college educated. I think there are more people within our community here that have been exposed to the arts than other places, but again, that's not necessarily causal. I ran Pearson correlations on exposure to and experience with dance and dance literacy, and there was a strong positive correlation between these two things. Um, there was not a significant relationship between previous exposure slash experience with dance and attitudes towards dance. And there was also not a significant correlation between literacy and attitudes towards dance. It made a lot of sense to me that early exposure and experience has a strong correlation. When I was teaching at Middle Tennessee State University, I taught a dance studies class, and I just found in general that the students there, and this is just, in my own data from teaching, I did not include this in the study, but that the people who had an early childhood experience were just more comfortable talking about dance. And again, like I said, I was surprised that the attitudes between male and female population, that there was not a significant difference. I had kind of expected it to be opposite, but that just shows my own personal bias. And then attitudes and dance literacy, I had assumed that there would be a stronger correlation, so I was surprised by that as well. So what I came away with from this study is that there really is. I'd like to make a call for more interest and research in the subject of dance, and that it can be a very powerful tool for helping to educate young children. And with the development of cognitive awareness, problem-solving skills, as we know, that these are incredibly important things for children to be learning in early childhood, and that children are so physical that dance just seems like the perfect avenue, the perfect tool to be helping them to further their development and education. It's also, I think, really important to determine attitudes towards dance in order to find entry points into this conversation. So basically, if we don't really know what people are thinking, it's hard to know how to address the conversation. So um, I think in refining, going back to my tool, and we'll talk about the limitations in a minute, um, and refining the tool and doing more tests for reliability and validity, that we might be able to determine attitudes towards dance in a more effective way. And again, determine how to begin these conversations with parents and teachers and policymakers. So the limitations of my study are obviously in the small sample size. There were 20 participants. And so it's very difficult to get accurate results with this size of a sample. Another limitation of the study was within the demographics themselves. As I mentioned earlier, this is a small alternative school in rural Tennessee. So I would not say that the sample represents the larger community within uh, rural Middle Tennessee. That many people who go to this school have been dissatisfied with the public education system here, and also come from many different walks of life, different parts of the country, some actually from other countries. So um, it's just not representative of our larger community here. Then the instrument itself, I found some problems within the instrument. So the definition of dance literacy was not defined well enough prior to creating the questions, and so I don't feel that that section um, was an accurate representation of what the deeper definition of dance literacy. Although, if you think of it in terms of dance vocabulary, it was a strong representation of dance vocabulary, but literacy goes just a little bit deeper than that. And then the questions in the exposure and experience section, I did not feel were nearly comprehensive enough when I was reflecting on the instrument itself. So the the exposure and experience relied mostly on whether or not children had attended dance classes in a studio setting. That didn't take into account um, parents who might have been exposed to street dancing if they grew up in cities, social dancing, weddings. I didn't get into that enough, and after school programs, that sort of thing. So I felt that those sections were just a little bit too limited to provide accurate data. But this was a really fun project in the end, and I felt that I learned quite a bit more about a topic that I feel very passionate about. So thank you for taking the time to listen and listening to what I had to share on the topic. Thank you.